It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
All right. Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now, right here on americasvoicenow.org. You can also catch us on Big Country 99, Rooster Radio, from midnight to 2 a.m., Monday through Friday. And I hope you're listening to us there now. You can also find us at Patriot FB. That's Patriot FB, like Facebook. And it is an outstanding website full of great American patriots where you're never going to run into censorship and you're never going to run into drones that are out there and trolls that are out there messing around with your ability to communicate with others. There's a lot of great information that you can find on there because there's a bunch of folks that are survivalists. There are a bunch of folks that are into the prepper movement. There's a lot of folks that are into self-reliance. They've got there's all kinds of educational stuff that's up there, unlike the drivel and the garbage that you see on Facebook. So there's a friend of mine over there who runs a website called survivalbypreparedness.com. That's survivalbypreparedness.com. He's got some products up there. He's also got some interesting stuff where you can get educated on all kinds of issues about self-reliance, and he's got articles and blog posts. And Dan's a great guy, and I encourage you to participate with him if there's any way that you can do that. It's called survivalbypreparedness.com. Now, I also am working with a great group called Atlas Survival Shelters, and I would encourage you to make sure that you visit their website and or their Facebook page and hit like. It's atlassurvivalshelters.com. They are looking this spring at doing a brand new reality television show that I am very excited about because I've been talking with the owner over there about the idea of working together with him in a couple of different areas. One, this whole show will focus on prepper communities, not just individual families who are building some kind of a shelter or, for themselves, but prepper communities where you have a collection of individuals and families that get together. And the reason for that, of course, should be obvious to everyone, and that is that none of us is an island, right? If you think that in the event of some kind of a financial collapse or a fiscal crisis or some kind of a national emergency or a natural disaster or a government-sponsored disaster, that you're going to be able to go it alone, sorry, I don't think so. You and your family cannot grow your own food, produce everything that you need, generate your own heat, produce your own power, and watch all your stuff and protect and defend yourselves against others who would take it from you by yourselves. So the idea is to have communities of individuals and families that have gotten together and said, look, collectively we're greater than the sum of us is greater than the parts. And so he's working on the idea of building these prepper communities, and he's working right now to try to put this reality program together. And so I think it's a very, very interesting concept. He has some really cool products. I mean, he builds them inside these gigantic 12-foot, corrugated steel tubes. And when you take a look at what he's got there, that you can bury these things underground. And when you take a look at what he's got and the air filtration system and the way, the electrical generation and all the rest of that, it's pretty interesting. So jump over there if you get a chance to and take a look at Atlas Survival Shelters. And if you do, or if you jump onto his Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Atlas Survival Shelters, hit the like button and then just send him a quick note and say, I heard about you on America's Voice Now, and Mike was talking about that. Okay. The NSA and the GCHQ were caught under a program called Optic Nerve. And, in a almost Freudian way, Optic Nerve really took a lot of nerve. for these people to do. This is a Yahoo webcam community where they were spying on. And these images have been intercepted by the GCHQ, but in concert and cooperation with the NSA. There was no way for them to separate the American users from the British users or from the anywhere else users. And over 1.8 million users were targeted in the UK within a 6-month period alone. 1.8 million in 6 months only. Now, the program was capturing all of these images in bulk. And it spanned years. I mean, this was between 2008 and 2010. So, for the record, by the way, folks, this is proof. You cannot lay the entire NSA surveillance infrastructure at the feet of Obama. Granted, he put it on steroids, but you can lay this on George the Traitor Bush, because, and previous administrations too. Recognize, guys, these tyrants, statists, and elitists have been doing this to us for decades. They just are advancing the concepts and the technology at an appalling rate at this stage in the game. But make no mistake about it, the NSA and all of their spying and the GCHQ and the cooperation between this traitorous group of 5, and that's the United States, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, you know, all these countries that are, and what they're doing is, the NSA is prohibited from spying on Americans, right? So if they can't get the FBI to do it, because they do have domestic authority in the United States, then they get England to do it, or they get Australia to do it. And then they just have Australia send them the pertinent information, and then they can say, see, we didn't do it. Come on, folks. That's like me telling you, you go rob the bank or you go sell the drugs because you're under 18, and you're not, and if you get caught, you're going to get a slap on the wrist. But I'm profiting from it. So, I mean, how is that I'm not involved? You know, it's such a scam, and it pisses me off. All right. Anyway, the Optic Nerve program was a whole new level, and this is right out of Yahoo, because they had no idea this was going on, or at least they claim they didn't. They're saying, quote, it's a whole new level of violation of our users' privacy. No kidding. And interestingly enough, the interception captured an enormous amount of pornography and sexually explicit images. Now, I don't really care about that as an aspect of it, other than the fact that that information can be used to manipulate people. That's my biggest concern with it. I don't care if a bunch of oversexed NSA analysts are sitting there taking those pictures home and doing God only knows what men will do with pictures, or women. What really bothers me, and I don't care if they've got deviant, you know, practices in their own lives. What bothers me is that when this stuff was kept, the people that are in them can be manipulated by their use. Now, GCHQ, which is Britain's surveillance agency, they are our NSA, right? They did this with the aid of our NSA. And they intercepted and stored all of these images. And by the way, none of these people who were there, they were capturing all this on, was ever accused of doing something. I mean, these weren't like known terrorists or suspected terrorists. They weren't people that were involved in any. And these were just regular run-of-the-mill people. And maybe some, you know, some more targeted people, I'm assuming. I don't know. We'll probably never know, because everything is a secret, right? Everything is a secret unless it's your secret. Then, of course, everybody knows. They were capturing these files between 2008 and 2010, at least that we know about at first glance. And they explicitly called this and codenamed this thing Optic Nerve. And what it did was, as your Yahoo chat was going on, and these were two-way chats with a webcam, right? So they were capturing still images. Boom, capture, 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 capture. And then they were storing them away in bulk. And then they were distributing them to agency databases, whether that might have been the United States under the NSA, or whether that might have been to somebody in Australia or somebody in the European countries or whatever. And the point is that this was just arbitrary and random. There was no targeting. It wasn't like they were saying, well, you know, we got to follow this guy named Bob because he's doing, you know, he's trying to smuggle guns across the border, or this guy Muhammad because he's trying to blow up something, or this guy, you know, because he's a murderer or something. There was none of that. It was just random. In one 6-month period in 2008 alone, the agency collected webcam imagery, including, this is right out of the article, including substantial quantities of sexually explicit communications from more than 1.8 million user accounts globally. Yahoo has reacted furiously to the webcam interception when they were approached by the Guardian newspaper, where this article sits. And it's on our Facebook page, YouTube page, etc., Patriot FB, etc. The company, of course, denies any prior knowledge of the program, and they are accusing the agencies of, quote, a whole new level of violation of our users' privacy. Now, the truth is, this is nothing less than Orwellian. And I've been saying to you for some time that all of these organizations are utilizing technology to build databases so that they have sortable information on every human being alive. I'm predominantly concerned with the United States, but I don't limit it to that, and I'll tell you why. I mean, we're not an island either. And so, you know, if it affects us, it affects the rest of the world. If it affects the rest of the world, it affects us. And I'm not saying that we need to be out there stormtrooping anywhere other than our own shores, but I am going to tell you this. You can't have the rest of the world living under an Orwellian, you know, surveillance state where everything that they say and think and do and read and see and smell and taste is all monitored, determined, predetermined by somebody else to manipulate them through the paths of life, and have us isolated from that. It's just not going to happen. The reality is not avoidable. So, when we talk about this, we have to look at this as whether it was done by the GCHQ and it involved Europe or Brits, or whether it involved people all over the globe or just in the United States. We don't draw the line there because the truth is, privacy is a human right. It's not an American right. It's not a British right. It's not a Russian right or a Muslim right or a Middle Easterner's right or an Israeli right. It's a human right. We all have the right to the privacy of our communications, our discussions, our contacts, who we talk to, what do we talk to them about. That's nobody's business but ours. And statists and totalitarians always want that. And here's why. They get to use it against you. It's a weapon in their hands. And that's why they do this. Not because they're trying to keep you safe. This has nothing to do with keeping you safe. And in fact, you are at a greater danger of losing life, liberty, limb from your own government than you are from some nameless, faceless terrorist who's trying to blow off a stick of dynamite somewhere. The truth is, police brutality here in the United States has killed more Americans than we lost in Iraq. I mean, look onto our website or jump onto YouTube and type in the word police brutality, and you will be flooded with stories. I mean, literally, folks, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them. Police just operating so abusively against the citizenry. There is a divide, and there is an us versus them situation that has been growing and growing and growing. And now the divide is becoming more abundantly clear. You're either with government or you're against it. In George Orwell's book, 1984, he gave us a view of what this dystopian world would look like. And it horrified people. It wasn't written in 1984. That was the prediction that by 1984, that's what the world would look like. And he wasn't making it, he wasn't saying he was some Nostradamus or prophet or something. He was just writing a book that this is what he foresaw coming in the future. And, of course, I guess 1984 was far enough in the future that he thought, well, it's possible. I remember in the 60s when I was a kid growing up, they were saying that by the year 2000, we were going to be in flying cars, and cars on the road would be obsolete. Right? They were saying that we'd be living in space by, 2015. There's a lot of people living in space. It's called this bubble of unicorn flatulence injected air in Washington, D.C. But the point was of 1984 was to alert people to the fact that totalitarians and statists and people who are determined to rule you through the use of your information. And that is why you've got problems with, or why I have a problem with things like Obamacare, because it's not about health care. It's all about the game of control. If you control people's information, if you control their health care, if you can control the economy, they can scream and whine and protest and yell and sign petitions all they want. It's meaningless. Don't you see it? We hear about petitions being filled out all the time, and your politicians still do what they do. Nobody cares what you think. Their actions are predetermined, and everything that you get as a response to your concerns, well, we're going to take a look at that. We're concerned about how you feel. All of that is nothing more than lip service to get you to shut up and go away. And one of the ways that they can do that, when you become too aggressive, is to use tools that they now have at their disposal to identify and find out weaknesses. What's your weakness? Well, you're somebody who has a problem. You got a sexual shoe fetish, or you got a problem with little girls, or you got a problem with little boys, or we were watching you and we saw you have a conversation on Yahoo's webcam, and we captured this information that talks about some kind of a fraud you were running, or some kind of a scam you were running, or maybe we can just make an innocent business deal you were trying to put together look and sound like fraud. Maybe it's just something embarrassing, like you've got a girlfriend and your wife doesn't know about her. And if we can use that as a wedge issue on you, if we can pry you away and we can discredit you in the community, or the people that follow you, or the people that surround you, or the people that you're influencing, or that you are influenced by you, we own you. Because if there is one thing about human nature, it is simply this. People will pay almost any price to keep their secrets secret. Here's the problem. If you're going to pay a price to keep your secret secret, it doesn't pay government to go after somebody who doesn't have any power or influence. It only pays when they have some dirt on somebody that they can use to influence others, or to create a situation where they gain from it, where their agenda is achieved because of that person. I don't know what is behind the wholesale turning of the Republican Party. I don't know what is behind the wholesale ignorance of and I say ignorance not as in not knowing, but the ignoring of all of the facts that are going on around us in the news media. But I'm going to tell you this. I don't have to have empirical proof to know that statistically it is impossible that all these people can betray their own stated beliefs, their own political ideology, their own journalistic integrity without some kind of pressure. And this is how they've been getting it. We're going to take a break. You're listening to America's Voice Now. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about how the libs are seeking to silence the Frankenstein monster of corporate money that they let out in the first place. Now that the Republicans have figured out how to use this particular tool and remote control the monster, boy, they are having kittens. And they're going to do anything to silence these groups. Even while they simultaneously limit their own effect, or the effect that these new law changes through the IRS are going to have on them and their toadies. All right, americasvoicenow.org. You can email me at mike@americasvoicenow. We'll be right back.